Next on the news, it's the only schooling alternative to masks and COVID anxieties in the city of New York. An exclusive look inside a class at St. Thomas Aquinas Online Academy. A reawakening to understand the Blessed Sacrament. The U.S. bishops wrapping their fall meeting, calling for a 3-year Eucharistic revival. And this. A plea for life answered. Vigils held for Julius Jones hours before he was set to be executed. Now the governor, after praying on the decision, sparing Jones's life. Plus, America's drug epidemic at its deadliest ever. Overdoses rise by the tens of thousands in a year. Opioids, the driving culprit. How experts say we can reverse this tragic trend. I'm Christine Persichetti. Currents News starts right now. We heard the complaints from many parents over and over during the pandemic. If students aren't in the classroom, they're falling behind. Still, some parents are being cautious, and the Diocese of Brooklyn is offering the city's only remote learning option this year. Currents News got an inside look, and Jessica Easthope reports the students are not only learning, they're thriving.
5-year-old Michael Martinez loves to explore, get his hands dirty, and use his imagination. His dad, Anthony, says his school embraces his individuality and celebrates his achievements. That part may not surprise you, but the part that may, Michael's never met his teacher or his classmates in person.
He's getting this one-on-one that he wouldn't get in class, and that is paramount to anything else.
Nice work, my friend.
Michael attends St. Thomas Aquinas Catholic Online Academy, a completely virtual K-8 school for kids all over the country.
Yes!
We were able to sit in on a class and see what it's all about.
Good citizens are responsible.
During the pandemic, the Diocese of Brooklyn launched the program for students who were mandated to stay home. But when the administration realized families needed this option far beyond then, it was made a permanent school.
Students are really immersing themselves in the content of their classes. We've been blessed with a really good faculty. So it really spells a good start.
In the first year of the distance learning program, there were 2,400 students enrolled. This year, in-person learning is back, and there are still around 160 students.
Beautiful.
But social studies teacher Jennifer Centeno says now everyone in her class is there because they want to be, not because they need to be.
Each child has their own individual learning needs, and we've been able to accommodate. They are able to flourish better.
And Michael seems to like it too.
I have fun in school. I love it so much.
For the Martinez family and so many others, this is long term.
He didn't know how to read at all, and at the end of the year he was reading books. Why change the recipe?
St. Thomas Aquinas is here for good, and enrollment is growing every day. Families, along with students, are learning to adapt and build a different kind of connection. Jessica Easthope, Currents News.
And St. Thomas Aquinas Catholic Online Academy is still accepting new students. Families looking for remote learning can register at stacoa.org and find more information about tuition and financial aid. The bishops are wrapping up their fall meeting in Baltimore. The 3-day event has been jam-packed with high-profile votes, including that much-anticipated document on the Eucharist. But that wasn't all that happened. They also decided on some other action items, ones you'll want to be a part of. The bishops chose September 5th as Mother Teresa's feast day. That was when the Missionaries of Charity founder died in 1997. The bishops will also be holding a Eucharistic revival project to bring people back to the Blessed Sacrament. The patron for the first year of that campaign, someone well known throughout the Diocese of Brooklyn, Blessed Carlo Acutis. National correspondent for the Tablet and Crux, John Lavenberg, joined the bishops all week long, and now he's back in Brooklyn on the desk with us. Welcome back. Nice to see you, John.
Nice to see you, Christine. Happy to be back.
So, John, it's been a marathon for you, but tell us a little more about this special campaign. It's going to end with the National Eucharistic Congress, the first in nearly 50 years. So what exactly is it?
So this Eucharistic revival is part of the U.S. Bishops' 2021 to 2024 strategic plan. It's actually the focus of it. So Bishop Andrew Cozzens of St. Paul in Minneapolis, he's the USCCB Evangelization Chair. He kind of is spearheading this whole process. And so it's going to kick off next June. And from there, it's going to go into diocesan phase. Then in 2023, move into a parish phase where it'll be focused on getting everyday Catholics to really center their faith on the Eucharist. So after 2023, it'll then get to this grand Eucharistic Congress that you mentioned that they hope draws 80,000 to 100,000 Catholics. It's going to cost $28 million, and they think it's going to cap off this Eucharistic revival and carry them into the future.
Sounds nice. All right, this comes at a time when the bishops are already in what's called a synodal process, a period of time to gather information in their dioceses and report back to the Pope about big issues on the minds of everyday Catholics. So we've heard this could be a daunting task.
Yeah, so the Synod of Bishops, I mean, it was talked about at length. It was actually one of the most discussed items, and it was started with a video message from Cardinal Mario Grech, who's the Vatican General Secretary for the Synod. And he told the bishops that when it comes to these listening sessions, don't be afraid to report back to the Vatican in a frank way about what came out of these. And then he also reminded them, you have the Vatican support on the initiatives that you're undertaking. And so from there, Bishop Daniel Flores of Brownsville, who he's kind of spearheading this from the USCCB standpoint, he presented on it, told the bishops that may have fallen behind. You have resources, it's not too late. And then from there, 9 bishops got up and spoke about it, what's working, what's not in their dioceses, spoke about other things they can do. And one of them was Cardinal Joseph Tobin of Newark. And what he told them is, remember, bishops, let the Holy Spirit guide you through this process.
That's nice. They can learn from each other what they're doing. It was the first time the bishops were in person in 2 years. So did that kind of play into the energy of this conference?
It really did. I mean, to put it simply, it was great. I mean, they had a great time being together for the first time in 2 years. They said, it's not just being together in General Assembly, it's also coffee breaks, informal conversations, things like that, where they can just catch up with their brother bishops they haven't seen in years and also talk about business and have informal conversations about things that, they say lead to things getting done and lead to more action taking place.
All right, John Lavenberg, national correspondent for the Tablet and Crux. You've been really busy. Thank you so much for all your reporting.
Thank you for being here. Happy to be back on the desk.
The governor of Oklahoma prayed, and mere hours before Julius Jones was scheduled for execution, Kevin Stitt made the decision. Jones will live. The many Oklahomans who've been pleading for his life crying out in relief. Jones was convicted of the 1999 murder of Paul Howell, who was killed in a carjacking. But Jones has maintained all along he's innocent, and those who held vigils all night long agreed.
The country's watching, our kids are watching, and, we have the opportunity to show them, love, decency, and that life is important.
The community that's been brought together because of Julius Jones and the fight to liberate Julius is really a beautiful community. It's diverse. It's from babies to the elderly, so it's really an amazing movement.
Vigils were held Wednesday night in both the Oklahoma City State Capitol and outside the governor's mansion. The state parole board had recommended that Jones' sentence be commuted. He's now serving life in prison. He's 41 years old and has spent more than 20 years behind bars already. In his 2018 encyclical, the Pope Francis condemned the death penalty, calling it, quote, an attack on the inviolability and dignity of the person that is inadmissible in all cases. Meanwhile, pleas for life fell on deaf ears in Mississippi, which held its first execution since 2012.
I couldn't stay home when the state of Mississippi is executing somebody. Wish we would wake up and quit doing it. It's violent, and it's, there's all this ceremonial stuff, where you can park, what you can do, and we're killing somebody.
David Neal Cox was sentenced to death after pleading guilty 11 years ago to capital murder in the death of his estranged wife. 36 inmates remain on death row at the Mississippi State Penitentiary. The U.S. opioid crisis has reached another terrible milestone. New federal data suggests overdose deaths have hit record highs across the country. Mandy Gaither has more on what health experts say needs to be done to reverse this trend.
It's a new record high. More than 100,000 people died of drug overdoses in the U.S. during the 12-month period ending in April, jumping nearly 30% from the same time period a year ago.
This is a national crisis. It knows no geographical bounds, and it continues to get worse.
The CDC says opioids continue to be the driving force in the rising overdose death toll. Synthetic opioids, primarily fentanyl, caused 2/3 of all drug overdose deaths in that time period. On a call, DEA Administrator Ann Milgram says her agency is finding these drugs in every state, reaching an unprecedented level.
This year alone, DEA has seized enough fentanyl to provide every member of the United States population with a lethal dose. And we are still seizing more fentanyl each and every day.
There are likely more deaths yet to be uncovered.
Dr. Trent Hall is an addiction medicine specialist at Ohio State University Wexner Medical Center. He says in his clinical experience, overdose deaths have not gone down since April when this provisional data ended. To change the trend, Hall says Americans need to be aware of local treatment and prevention resources for addiction, monitor friends and family for any signs of addiction, and be prepared.
Narcan kits are easy to obtain from your physician or local pharmacist, and easy to use. As you can see, it comes in the form of a handy nasal spray.
I'm Mandy Gaither.
There's a lot more news headed your way. We couldn't let him retire without one more. Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio is here for his final Into the Deep segment. Stick around to hear what he has to say. And later, after fighting on the front lines, many find themselves standing in line at the food bank, what the Pentagon is doing for military families in need.
There are now some big changes to the tablet website. You can get personalized access to the Catholic news you value. Sign up for free at thetablet.org.
After 18 years, the Diocese of Brooklyn is getting ready to say goodbye to Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio as he retires. Here at Currents News, the bishop has been a dedicated guest, offering his insight and wisdom on a weekly basis during his Into the Deep segments. He joins us and former tablet editor Ed Wilkinson one last time. This one, a look back at the last 2 decades. Ed, take it away.
Thank you, Christine. Well, this is it. We've made it to our final installment of Into the Deep with Bishop DiMarzio. Bishop, after all these years, we finally got here. You know, your retirement is pending, and the installation of the new bishop will take place. What do you remember about your installation here 18 years ago?
Well, it was a glorious day, and there was lots of people at the Basilica of Perpetual Help. And one of the things I did remember is that Cardinal Egan was very, very gracious. And there was one point that we both were laughing, kind of a little bit more than you would think. And that picture was what got into the paper. Well, we got letters on it. Why didn't you think this was serious, this thing? So, well, it was just a happy day, that's all.
What was your relationship with, like with the archbishops of New York? 'Cause it's always a cardinal, you know, you've had Cardinal
Cardinal Egan was very, very gracious, very collaborative. Also with Cardinal Dolan, there's no problem. Again, we've put together this joint effort to basically lobby the city council. It's a registered lobbyist that we have, so we do it together. Before that, it could have been a problem. One diocese would say one thing. We're one city. We have to work in concert.
It's a unique
but
situation.
it started with Cardinal Egan. Dolan picked it up. So we're working in concert with one another.
That was a great day with the Cardinal Egan back then. And what are you going to miss most, do you think, about being bishop?
Well, probably going around to the various parishes. I mean, that was the joy part of the job. That was, as I said in the homily, you know, that's the sanctification. That's the liturgy. Those are the things you really like to do. Administration is not something you particularly like to do. You have to do it, you do it. But that's the fun part.
Yeah. Anything surprise you? You know, like when you came to the diocese, you probably had certain preconceptions about what Brooklyn was going to be like. Has anything surprised you in the last 18 years?
Gee, that's a hard question. You have to be flexible. I mean, when you're not flexible, you're surprised by a lot of things. Mm-hmm. So I tried to be flexible. I was in a positive way surprised because of the resiliency of the people here and the priest. I mean, you know, some difficult situations. And they, you know, take like ducks to water, and it doesn't, nothing seems to bother people. They have to do something, they do it. Look, we were through 9/11, I came at the tail end of that. Then we had Sandy. Really, the people of New York are resilient, and they're tough, but resilient.
Yeah. The fact that this is an all-urban diocese must offer some unique challenges.
Yeah, if I didn't come from one myself, might be a little bit afraid. But, you know, if it was in Newark and I was in Camden, Brooklyn, this is better here.
How did being a bishop in Newark and then also then in Camden prepare you for Brooklyn?
Well, it did prepare me. I mean, that's the urban setting. All the urban problems were there. So it was good preparation, really.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything, will you miss coming to the office every day, do you think?
Maybe. I'll see how I feel. Not having the difficult schedule all the time. Give me a little bit of study, prayer, a little leisure. I think at this point, I think I'm ready for that.
You've been a pretty busy guy, and you know, very busy. And then one day you're the bishop, and the next day you're the bishop emeritus. I mean, that's an abrupt thing, isn't it? How do you think you'll cope with that?
Well, I'm trying to keep busy. I think I want to spend some time as a fellow at the Center for Migration Studies in New York City. It's a Catholic think tank on migration. So I try to use my brain a little bit and try to help there. So I'm looking forward to a modified schedule. So I will be doing things on a scheduled basis. I just don't want to stop doing everything.
Okay. We're going to take a look at some shots from your recent anniversary Mass, Bishop, and we'd like you to comment on them for us.
All right, we're tapping. Let's see if it works. Oh yes, okay, this is the entrance. Very nice. Yes. Oh, it changes. It's a lot of priests. There were a lot of priests there. Very good. And my family, my little niece is there. It's cute. Yeah, very nice. Variety of priests. My little nephew was so cute. He was holding the paten and the hose tight so it wouldn't fall off. That was very nice. He's only 4 years old. Great nephew, actually. Cardinal Dolan was very good with his remarks, short as usual. And I'm smiling, which is good. That's a good shot. Oh, and then the monument that we're going to have outside the cathedral. That was a complete surprise. Knew nothing about that. Bishop Geppetto. My hands clasped pretty tightly there. Nice pictures, very nice pictures.
So what'd you think of the Mass? Do you think was successful? You happy?
It was very
with
nice. I mean, it was kind of a conclusion of the ministry here, and I had a chance to talk about the episcopacy a bit, prepared the homily, you know, kind of tightly, trying to bring some real incidents and examples, and it was meant to teach about what the bishop is supposed to be. Yeah. Sometimes, as my mother said, "What you're supposed to make priests? That's what the best thing you do. What else do we do? No, people don't know. They don't know what the life of the bishop is." Yeah. So I tried to explain it.
Right. Well, Bishop, I want to thank you for being available to us all these years. You've answered all our questions. We've thrown some tough ones.
Some hard ones.
You've
yes.
always had the answers for us, and we want to thank you for being with us all these years, and good luck in your retirement.
It's been a great experience.
Good. Thank you.
Take care. Thank you.
Good. Christine, we're coming back to you now.
Thank you, Ed and Bishop DiMarzio. On behalf of the Currents newsroom, we'd like to thank Bishop DiMarzio for his devotion to Catholic journalism and to spreading the good word. And don't forget to join us later this month as we welcome Bishop Robert J. Brennan to the Diocese of Brooklyn. We'll have live coverage of his installation starting at 10:30 a.m. on November 30th. It kicks off with a press conference at the Co-Cathedral of St. Joseph, followed by a documentary covering the life and legacy of Bishop DiMarzio. Bishop Brennan's installation mass airs at 1:30 p.m. Again, that's November 30th, starting at 10:30 a.m. right here on Net TV. A yearly fundraising tradition at Bay Ridge Catholic Academy has earned double the dimes of previous years to help the tiniest among us. The school raised more than $1,600 for the March of Dimes New York, which assists new mothers and families in taking care of babies born premature. The 5th annual Dress Down Donation Day and newly added cookie sale done in support of one of their classmates who was born premature and received help from the March of Dimes. The event was held on World Prematurity Day. Still to come on Currents News, a heartwarming reunion. A Marine who's been away for months surprises his kids at school. We'll show you. And while they're serving our country, many of their families are going without. How the government is stepping up for military families in need. Do you have a story idea or want to share a tip? Email us at newstips@desalesmedia.org or call our 24-hour number 718-517-3122. We'll be right back. More signs that Christmas is on its way. A 20-foot Fraser fir is heading from a farm in Ashe County, North Carolina, to take its place in history as an official 2021 White House Christmas tree. It will go on display in the Blue Room, and it won't be alone. 3 more trees from farmer Rusty Estes' lot will be tagging along to go on display in other White House rooms. High prices at the grocery store and gas station are affecting families all over the country. But it may surprise you to learn that many military families are going without, to the point that they're relying on food banks. Now the Defense Department is stepping in. Oren Lieberman reports on how the Pentagon is serving the military.
Go, go. Go, go, go. It was hard enough when Rachel Sabo's husband deployed during the pandemic. Harder still when she lost her job, pregnant with her now 11-month-old son.
I think anyone who has never gone through this, they don't really know how difficult it is until they've actually had to go through it.
Like so many other military families, Sabo found herself struggling financially. She turned to military food pantries at Fort Bragg, which helped make ends meet until she returned to work and her enlisted husband received a promotion.
Everyone needs help at some point in their lives, so you might as well take advantage of it.
Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin announced Wednesday that more help is on its way. In addition to an increase in housing allowances in high-priced areas, active duty troops will get financial education and better access to financial resources.
Our men and women in uniform and their families have enough to worry about. Basic necessities like food and housing shouldn't be among them.
The steepest rise in inflation in decades has pushed the cost of food, fuel, and housing even higher, all during the COVID-19 pandemic. Unemployment amongst military spouses worsened, and affordable childcare for military families became harder to find.
I think COVID really was that point. Like we saw an increase in the demand for food at most of our locations by as much as 400%. And again, I tie that back to spouse unemployment and childcare.
As many as 125,000 active duty service members struggle with food insecurity, according to Feeding America, a nonprofit that runs a national network of food pantries. Shannon Rasadin, director of the Military Family Advisory Network, says their food distribution events draw thousands of families across the country, especially in high-priced areas.
And they're going through and they're coming out relieved. You know, we've had families literally tell us, thank you so much, I didn't know what I was going to feed my kids tonight.
As costs of basic staples keep rising, shoppers today are paying over 5% more for their groceries than just a year ago, which concerns advocates who worry that members of the military experiencing financial hardship for the first time may not seek the help they need.
That was Oren Lieberman reporting. The Defense Secretary is also working to extend tours at military bases. Spouses often have difficulty staying employed when they have to move every year or two.
Daddy!
I love these videos. What might have been any other day in this Texas classroom instead became a heartwarming reunion between a Marine and his 3 sons. Gunnery Sergeant Benny Bennett has been away from his family for nearly a year, but the Marine was able to return home from deployment just in time for Thanksgiving.
They don't look as tall when we're FaceTiming, but it's surprising how fast they grew. But I knew I'd be able to see him again one day.
Bennett will be home for the next 20 days before having to return. He says the toughest part of leaving is not being there for his family. And that is Currents News. I'm Christine Persichetti. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.